Good morning, everybody. As we start off today, I want to look at those storms last night in the plains because some of these supercells that erupted here throughout parts of Nebraska, Kansas, and eventually down into Texas were quite potent, putting down some pretty large hail. And this, again, is the wave that we watched for several days over the western United States. Finally eject. It was cut off. It's pulled back into the flow now, and it's going to start to move east. We have questions about the strength of the front as it moves through the midsection of the country, but we've got some new information, I think, on what's coming behind it, and I think that's going to help a lot with precipitation in some places that were forecast a bit drier the other day. But first of all, what happened with these storms last night? Just taking a look here. This is some of the recent hail data. This is a 3-day look at hail, so looking back 3 days. And you can just see the streaks from some of these storms putting down some locally large hail, some of them getting up to baseball size here. Of course, this is hitting at a tough time. Of course, during harvest, we have stand quality issues. When you put down strong winds and large hail like this is extremely disruptive to the crops grown in these particular areas. But over the last 3 days, this is what our total precipitation has looked like from this system. So almost everything you see on the east, except for what's going on in the eastern half of the country, is from that one deep low that's sitting and spinning here initially and is starting to move out into the plains, and it's going to continue to progress toward parts of Ontario. So some locally very, very heavy rainfall, as you can see here. Now, we've got this ongoing story about getting the moisture into the midsection of the country, where I've shown you repeatedly where the drought is, all along the Mississippi, parts of the Ohio, and parts of the Missouri River Basin. And that's going to be an area that's going to continue to be a concern until we see the moisture levels come back up. So we need to go out there and see if there's anything kind of waiting in the wings to do that. So taking a look right now at where the storms are this morning. This is the low as it curls up. There it is, moving across the midsection of the country. And we're going to stop this right as the front kind of loses anything that it may have had at this point coming through parts of the Midwest. But what we need to pay attention to is what's coming in on the back side of this that could be reinforcing for the rainfall and severe storm potential here, and then what could be pushing this up through parts of the Ohio River Valley. Again, an area that really needs a lot of rainfall. So take a look. This is our jet stream level winds midday today. So this is the wave that's embedded in this longer wave. So when I talk about waves, I'm talking about these, okay? So that's a ridge, there's a trough, there's another ridge, and you can see the next trough. Now, we just refer to these as waves in the atmosphere, and we pay close attention to them because of the way around these waves air goes up and down. That's why we look at them. Now, you all know that if you're under a ridge, it's hot. If you're in a trough, it's cold. That's why the troughs and ridges exist. But we call these long waves, all right? And these are short waves. See this little short wave right in through here? That's going to be the one that comes in on the backside and exiting that wave. So you kind of enter on this side and exit on this side, just a general way to think about it. You tend to get better rising motion. So we're going to initiate more storms in this area. And what happens is the whole jet stream pattern itself sits on top of the surface temperature contrast or front. What's going to happen is this is going to end up riding along a front that's at the base of the broader trough. So keep an eye on that. I'll show you how this is all going to move. Now, there's other parts to this, though, I want to be watching. This right here is a newly formed tropical system. We're going to talk about Lydia. We're going to see where it goes. We need to watch this ridge of high pressure that's sitting here at the base of this trough, because whatever ends up coming out of this side of Mexico might get pulled on the northern side of this. We also have to see there's still a lot of momentum. I know it's all in the corner of the image here, coming across the Pacific and what that's going to do to the west. All right, so all that I'm going to unfold for you here in just a few moments. But to start off with, we do have the severe weather risk today, now anchored down in the southern plains, down into Oklahoma and Texas. So this is where the front is going to be able to interact with that short wave, remember the one we just talked about, that's going to be better able to produce stronger storms. But whatever comes out of here is going to like to move in this direction. Okay, so we're going to see where that heavy rain is going to go. Not necessarily the severe weather side of it, but the heavy rain is going to go out of this. This is kind of our last day from this system on severe weather in the central United States. So I thought the model was pretty well initialized. This is what things look like at 2 a.m. And watch, just as predicted, the front fell apart. So that was good. I'd like to see that by this morning, the model had a good first few hours of prediction. So what do we see through the middle of the day today, getting into this afternoon and this evening? This will be the area under which we're going to watch for the strongest and most severe storms. Really, it's going to be anchored right in through this spot and through here. We still have, though, remember, one low that ejected. We have the second that's pushing down like this, and that's the one that delivers the colder air. But take a look. Watch how this rides up this weak frontal boundary here from Wednesday night tonight into tomorrow morning, Thursday. Now see, this was not as forecast to be as heavy of a rainfall event in this region as it is now through Thursday morning. So the models kind of evolved to be wetter into this area through Thursday morning. So that's through 10 a.m. We then played this out through 3 p.m. and I like it. We need to get some moisture into this area. So this is going to chase a lot of guys out of the fields that are harvesting right now. It's not super heavy rain. Locally it may be, but it's not a widespread like 3-inch event. But there's some heavier pockets into this. And that's going to pull through and hit the eastern Great Lakes. And then the system that's on the back side begins to push. There's that front delivering the colder air. And that's going to sweep all the way through. And we'll take a look at what that frost threat looks like in just a few moments here. So that gets us through early Friday morning, midnight really. And then we play through the day on Saturday. And what we're going to watch is this low curl up in this area and just bring in pesky clouds and scattered showers of rain coming through. Now, you do note that as this approaches New England, we're going to have to watch to see how much rainfall comes out of this late this week into the weekend, given the flooding we saw in this area. So that's kind of your near-term outlook. I want to show you what I think is going on in the next 10 days by showing you a map I haven't shown you in a while. It's precipitable water. So when you look at this, the higher you go on this color bar is representing where the atmosphere is more loaded with water vapor, that can then be condensed and fall out as some form of precipitation. I'm watching it to kind of trace out where this pattern is going to go. Now, of course, our highest values are in the tropics. And this is Philippe. We're going to keep an eye on that. This is Lydia. Oops, Lydia's here. But there's also a 70% chance of something developing on the backside. Now, while all that happens, you watch. Dry air comes plowing into this, and the Pacific gets active. Okay, so here we are. Those are the things to watch through Wednesday, getting out into Thursday and Friday. So here comes the dry air. That's Lydia. This is what's left of Philippe moving its way toward Maine. And that dry air dives into the Midwestern United States, giving us several days here of cooler and drier weather through the weekend. But as that happens, the Pacific reloads. So a deep low curls up here and pulls this stream of moisture into coastal Oregon and Washington. Meanwhile, what's left of Lydia here starts to meander her way back toward Mexico. And while this is happening about a week from now, this is now, I'm looking out there at next Thursday, I'm starting to see again more active convection happening in the Bay of Campeche. But remember, I think that because there is going to be some stronger winds in this area, it's going to be difficult to take whatever comes out here and push it to the north. So through Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we struggle to see a major surge of moisture like the one we're seeing right now. Take a look. So this is next Thursday. This is the one you've got today. Look at all that moisture getting up here. So it's going to be a little bit different scenario bringing that moisture up, but we're going to see how far inland we can bring whatever moisture comes out of this tropical event into the south and southeast where it has been very dry. Because you know I'm worried about drought development in the southeast right now given the dryness in the forecast. So in the tropics, Philippe, this just kind of showed up yesterday. I hadn't talked about Philippe in a while. Most of Philippe's ensemble guidance said, leave it out here, slow moving and keep it. But the newest data are taking what's left of Philippe and pulling it back into where we saw Lee go. Now, Philippe is not Lee, not even close. So this will be up here as a tropical depression and falling apart. It's going to merge with the deeper upper level low that's through this area. So had we not, I guess, told folks that this was part of Philippe, you'd have just thought it was a deep October low spinning around in this area. But you notice 70% here. And you can see there's Lydia. You can see this behind it. And this is just a lot of tropical convection that could come across Mexico and get into the Bay of Campeche here. So let's look at some probability maps. This one shows you the next 10 days, the probability of having tropical depression, low pressure, essentially. And so we have Lydia, the one following it, and this. That's the one I'm going to be watching carefully. All right. Now, there's Philippe. You can see, Philippe's got a 50% chance of bringing tropical depression-like characteristics, again, to Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, or New Brunswick, and Maine. So we'll have to watch that carefully. But I think the steering level winds at the jet stream are going to ultimately govern this. It's October. We've got to now focus hard on what the jet stream's up to. So here's a North American view of it right now. It's split. Look at that split. There's a big split in the west. There's a big ridge here, and all this gets replaced. So through Wednesday into Thursday, that long wave dives in. This has got the cold air in it. There's the subtropical jet behind it. See the split coming into the west? That's the warm-up for the west. But we noticed that there was momentum still coming across in the Pacific jet. It's extended. And by the time we get into early next week, that extension gets here. That was when that big ribbon of moisture comes into this area. While that happens, the flow is all concentrated here. There's the strong subtropical portion of the jet. Everything's just weak in between. So that's why we're not expecting a whole lot through middle of next week. But this would be what would take whatever comes out of here and keep it pretty far to the south, right? You can't get a tropical system to punch through that. It'll get ripped to shreds. So that's what's going to keep that pretty far to the south there when we get out there next week. Now, playing beyond this into Thursday of next week and Friday and going out there, I just want to tell you what I'm seeing in this pattern. There is something I'm going to keep an eye on about 9 days from now here, but we're way beyond 9 days. This is now out to the 15th. And what I continue to see is extended Pacific jet, ridging over the Rocky Mountains, convergent flow here, jet exit like that. Okay, that's the pattern. So we're going to see what that does overall through the next 10 to 15 days by going right to our European model compared to the GFS. Now, I left this out there at day 10 because I was just getting an idea about the differences in the models out there at that time period, next Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday, Friday, late, next week, basically. And I'm just wanting to see how the models evolve that system. Now, if we go back, let me show you how this all plays out. So this is through Wednesday. Now we're into Thursday evening. So there's the frontal boundary there on Thursday evening coming through. We're into Friday. That's when the deeper low spins up. You get the combination of Philippe coming in like this, the deeper upper level low sitting like that, and the two are just going to spin around up here for a while. This is Saturday afternoon, getting into Saturday evening. Oh, excuse me, I went way faster than that. This is Saturday afternoon through Sunday into Monday. Now, while that's all happening, that low spinning, yep, we could get some snow in Ontario, possibly into Quebec as well. There's just a whole lot of nothing happening in the midsection of the country, except for after the cold blast of air comes through, they're going to get a bit of a recovery in temperatures. Excuse me. What you've got following it is our next deep low coming into the northwest. So into Tuesday and Wednesday, that's what we're going to watch, a disorganized low coming into the northwest while there's still pesky showers around that cutoff upper level low here. Now, what I'm watching at this point, this is next Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, remember, is, don't forget, you've got the stronger subtropical jet coming in like this. But the GFS is attempting to crank something out. The Europeans still got it down here. Now watch, I'm going to walk back over that. This is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So the GFS, much, much more aggressive on delivering very heavy rainfall to our Gulf Coast next Thursday. And then because it's farther to the north, and of course the jet stream looks nothing like it did in the European model, it takes that thing and just curls it up into a monster, which is what I started this out with. And we're at that time of year where I got to be watching for systems like this. There's big question marks on this. We're going to have to watch it for a while. But if we go out there looking for ensemble support, I'm going to flip back to the European model and just ask it if it has some support for this. So as I play this forward, you're going to see a whole bunch of L's on the screen. Sometimes they're tightly clustered like they are in the first few days of the forecast. This is where we're just looking for where the model's putting low pressure. And this is all 101 perturbations of the model. So we run the European model 101 times to make what's called the ensemble. Now, they all agree on the position of the low by the time we get into Thursday. And here comes the high pressure diving in behind it that delivers all of the colder air that's in the midsection of the country. And then watch. This is where Philippe and that upper level low interact. So a lot of low pressure here sitting and spinning for a while. Now, what I'm watching next is down here. Now, as we go through Sunday into Monday and Tuesday, a lot of high pressure dominates. There's Lee troughing off the Rocky Mountains. And as we play this out, though, notice how wide the spread gets. But next Thursday, that's that time frame we're looking at here, there seems to be a general consensus of lower pressure in this area. Now, remember, the European model was not the model that was trying to put a low here. It was the GFS. But the European ensemble is suggesting, hey, we need to be on the lookout for something in this particular area. Notice they're relatively disorganized on whatever it is to the south, so we're taking off some of the risk of what could be coming out of the Bay of Campeche. Not off the table entirely, but I just want to not blow it out of proportion other than a 50% chance of tropical depression development. But overall, we just need to watch this mid to late next week, heading up into Friday the 13th, okay? All right, probabilities. through your next 5 days, this is the best chance of getting an inch of rainfall. And on the dry side of it, I think you can do the math here and find there's a lot of places not getting much over the next 5 days. But then from there, what about the wet side of it out to day 10? So see how the probabilities begin to increase in the midsection of the country? We'd expect that anyway, right? But this is when that potential system could be here. I'm just going to watch it and show you the model trends as we go forward. As it stands, since that's fully into week 2, this is what all 3 of our major modeling centers look like in terms of forecasting week 2 precipitation. There's a lot of equal chances or near normal in the midsection of the country. The European model went drier in Texas by keeping whatever comes out of the Bay of Campeche south. The GFS is trying to bring this a little closer to the coast, but it's now drier in this area as well. The CPC is not. They think whatever comes out of there is going to be influential on the precipitation pattern along our Gulf Coast into the southeast. And given the risk, I mean, take a look at these top series of maps here. The risk over the next 7 days of seeing nothing in the southeast. This is important. But overall, energetic wave out of the Pacific Northwest. I mean, we're expecting wetter conditions still in that area. All right, that was a lot just for rainfall. Let's keep moving here. I want to show you an animation. It's going to restart here. There we go. This goes back on September 27th and 28th, and you're getting a dot, these colors, for every time you got close to a record high, or even set one, there'd be an X in the middle of it. So when you watch this is the heat from last weekend in the midsection of the country, and there it was yesterday as well. But all of this, of course, is being replaced, and the new frost outlook through the next 7 days continues to evolve. We've got a pretty high probability of getting frost all the way down into central Kansas, parts of northwestern Missouri, most of Iowa, parts of Wisconsin. Will this get into the Midwest, this part of the Midwest, forgive me, Illinois over to Ohio? Well, let's go have a look. There's this morning's lows, going to be rapidly replaced in the midsection of the country with much colder air by Friday morning into Saturday. So this is when that trough pulls through high pressure, follows it into this area, and we've got that white contour showing us where our frost line is. So this is now getting into Sunday. Pretty chilly here, so there's going to be patchy frost throughout this whole area in through here. The west goes over very warm again, and the colder air exits southeast. Now we're talking about temperatures in the morning on Monday in the 40s now down here. Clear skies, dry conditions, light winds, high pressure, that's what it takes, and you got it. So we're going to watch these temperatures really bottom out in this area. There has been a bit of an evolution in the temperature pattern, though, past mid-October. And the models, instead of just keeping the pattern open and flowing, backed off on that a little bit. You know, I've been telling you that for 4 or 5 days now. And, of course, the models come in to kind of push against my narrative. You're looking right now at October 14th through the 19th. And notice how it has not progressed this warmth back through. Let me show you what I mean. Here's your next 5 days. So we know about this cold air that's coming through. So day 5 through 10, there it is. Now what we had seen was this warmth pressing back into this area, right? But now the new day 10 through day 15 is a little more stuck. In other words, the pattern didn't progress as projected. We end up seeing here longer waves. 1, 2, 3. You know, there's not even a ridge in here, so we're going to continue that. And that's 2, we could call this 1, that's a 3 wave number pattern. It was showing 4 and 5. Now things have backed off out there at, the 16th of October. So what you end up getting is a flow that's convergent in the midsection of the country here. Got a lot more cooler air tucked away in that trough, and the warmth, if there is any, it's going to be in the west. That's just the latest that we're getting out of this. All right, let's get some long range and finish this one up. El Nino. Okay, we continue to see our traditional, more east-based El Nino developing. What I, again, am stuck on is this. How much influence is this going to have on the Pacific jet stream? Because there's not a whole lot about this pattern that I would just solidly attribute to El Nino right now. I mean, you're going to hear people say that, but whatever. I don't see it. And I've been looking for a long time. So I know El Nino's there in the background and cranking, but for North American weather, I'm seeing a few other features really kind of try to dominate this pattern. And it's that time of year where we got to be watching the West Pacific. There's a typhoon right now going toward Taiwan. There's low pressure developing here. While this one's expected to go in this direction, I got to watch. This is that time of year where systems can, here's one going in that direction. But this is that time of year where systems can start to get pulled into the jet stream and really be disruptive. So I need you to be aware that weather half a world away is going to affect what we're up to here. And what about South America? As we just finished this video out, again, the forecast has been very consistent. We're expecting better rains to get going with planting in this area, but extremely heavy rainfall in northern Rio Grande do Sul, Santa Catarina, that's the small one here, and Paraná. Now, Paraná made some really big advancements on planting, and we're going to see some very heavy rainfall coming in here to the tune of 125 millimeters of rainfall. So that's, we're getting on 5 inches of rainfall out of this. That's what that would be. Meanwhile, this is not coming into Argentina. The wind field coming over the Andes Mountains is creating a pretty sizable rain shadow in this area, and it's continuing to go back into drought. Now, we had projected that Argentina would be seeing better spring rains, and it hasn't. So let's go have a look at what's going on in these places. First of all, if you're curious over the last month, what does our moving drought severity index look like? Well, September, we would not look at this and say that there was drought that was going to cause a delay in planting. Just take note. All of our flooding was down to Rio Grande do Sul, where it continues to this day. In Argentina, take a look. This is the last month. So this was the flooding in early September in this area. But you get rid of that, most of Argentina's main growing areas, from Santa Fe to Cordoba over to Buenos Aires, there's the Rosario Grain Exchange area. This has been continuation of being dry. And then it's spring, right? So they've got to have rain. And then the last 10 days, they've had nothing. And then we look out there at the forecast and see very little in the way of rainfall over the next 10 days. So the problem is this: root zone soil moisture. There's been a pretty sizable correction to most of Brazil's growing area, except for this eastern region. Take a look at Argentina. That story needs to come back to the news and be talked about with respect to weather, because if this is not filled in, as El Niños typically do, then we're going to be in trouble. And I made the case yesterday, there's a lot about this El Niño that's not El Niño-like. So we'll keep that narrative going. I got some new long-range analysis coming up for you at the end of the week. Until then, have a good rest of your week. Thanks for sticking around this morning.